All right, guys, so I'm going to start doing the A part of the Q&A that I wanted to do tonight. I asked you guys to ask me some questions, and I got to say some of them have been pretty amusing. And the first one, we're going to start with one of the amusing ones. It was, do I ever feel inferior while driving a Lamborghini? I have to say no, and I think that's a pretty simple answer. It's a great feeling through and through, so I think that is just some fun trolling, but funny question. Can it be daily driven? Was the next question. So depends. I mean, you can definitely daily drive all Lamborghinis. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way, right? But it's way easier with the V10s. I found the 610-4 and the Performante were very easy to daily drive, use for routine things. I mean, use for cruises with friends, driving in a more spirited way, but also just taking it to the gym, doing groceries. Now, the SVJ, I have taken it to the gym, I have taken it for groceries, I have taken it for cruises, and you can use it for all those things. It just depends. Like, parking's a little bit tougher, rear visibility isn't so great. So, it's a bit more challenging for some of the more daily driver type stuff. And it's also not the kind of car you really want to run up a ton of mileage on. So I'll get to that in another question. Another question was, what's the best part of the Lamborghini experience? And I gotta say, hands down, it has to be just for that the visceral just experience, like the feeling you get while driving it, from just the sound the sounds the car makes, the vibrations, the exhaust pops and crackles. It literally makes you laugh like you're some kind of evil cartoon supervillain. I'm not even kidding. Like, I'll actually laugh like that with the windows down. So if people are rolling by, when that happens, they will hear me sounding like a complete maniac, basically. But that has to be the best part of the experience. And then somebody asked about the bucket seats. Yes, I have had the bucket seats and the comfort seats. So in the Performante, I had, and actually I think in the 610-4, I had the comfort seats, which were great. I heard the bucket seats for the Performante were not so great, so I'm glad I had the comfort seats because they were very comfortable. And then for the SVJ, I have the carbon fiber sport bucket seats, and they're great too. They're really comfortable. I mean, maybe they're just perfectly kind of molded for someone my size and shape, but I really don't have a problem with it at all. Okay, so other questions were about financing. So someone asked about financing. Honestly, guys, I don't know anything about financing with these cars. I mean, I've talked to my financial planner about the possibility of doing it at some point, but I'm really kind of against, any kind of interest for my own sort of ethical, religious beliefs. I try to avoid interest. So I haven't used financing or leasing or any of that kind of stuff for any of these cars. I bought them in cash, so that's just my own personal philosophy. I mean, some people may think that is a poor use of funds, but for me, it's the kind of thing where I feel like you kind of need to make sure you're ready to do it in the way that's more proper for you, that's going to make you feel better about what you're doing, not stress out, not feel like you're doing something against your beliefs, right? So for me, that's the right way. For other people, they'll have their own way of doing things, and that's for them to decide, right? And I'll try to explain to you guys maybe along the way why I do some of the things that I do the way I do them. And then the other question was just about service. Servicing, I mean, really, I haven't had any of these cars for more than 2 years, right? The Performante I had for 2 years. So each of the V10s, they were just a yearly oil change. So it was pretty simple and really, I mean, more expensive than a regular oil change, but nothing astronomical. And then for the SVJ, Aventadors, their first service is pretty early on. So it was like a bigger one. But I mean, I just sent it to the dealership. They did what they needed to do, the scheduled service, and the car's been great. It's been a blast and no issues with it. So pretty happy with that aspect of it. Okay, I'm going to continue the next questions in the next bit after this. Okay, the next question was about tracking these cars. So I have never tracked my own Lamborghinis, and big reasons for that would be wear and tear on the car, insurance if something happens to it. Actually, track insurance can be tricky to get, especially for cars, especially the SVJ. I actually looked into that this year. It's very difficult to get. You won't really get covered for the whole thing on the track. So I just do not want to take something like that on the track. I'm sure nothing would happen if I took it on the track, but it's just I want to do things that I enjoy, not things that stress me out, if that makes sense. So what I prefer to do, and I have tracked Lamborghinis. I've tracked Huracan 610-4. I've tracked I tracked a Performante, but not on an asphalt track. That was on a frozen lake with Lamborghini Winter Academia. And I did the same thing on the frozen lake with an Aventador S briefly. And then I've also tracked an Aventador S along with the 610-4 Huracan on asphalt track. And that was a lot of fun. And that is kind of what I would prefer to do. So Lamborghini will occasionally come to town with some of their cars, Lamborghini Squadra Corsa. They do an event, you pay some money for it, admission fee, and you get to use their cars. And obviously they have insurance if anything happens to them. We were doing the Lamborghini Winter Academia. We were on a frozen lake with these cars. So yeah, I mean, you do kind of dust off the front splitter of these cars a little bit in snowbanks occasionally, but they're insured. And we really didn't damage any of the cars, but it's a lot more carefree and enjoyable when it's not your own car, especially when it's a high value exotic. The other question that was after this was why Lamborghini? Like, why did I pick this brand above all the others? I mean, just look at them, right? I mean, that's the main reason. I need to like the appearance of whatever car that I buy. I mean, that's one of the things I love about cars when they look really cool. And when I was a kid, I just loved things that look like spaceships and rocket ships and jet fighters and things like that. And like, what other brand embodies that more than Lamborghini? So there's that. And then they're all also just a blast to drive. And they're just all around great machines, amazing machines. They make you feel great while driving them. They give you lots of sort of exhilarating thrills. They're a spectacle on wheels. That's another way I describe them, and kind of like fire-breathing dragons in other senses when you drive them. So, I mean, what's not to like, really, right? I mean, I suppose if Lamborghini didn't exist, I might look at Ferrari. I might look at certain McLarens. Yeah, I mean, like visually speaking, hands down, the Lamborghini takes the cake. Another question was, why doesn't I think it's referring to the Aventador, why doesn't it get driven so much? I mean, I don't know where this person is getting that from. I'm not sure, because as far as I know, they don't have CCTV access to, the car and the dash cam access and like knowing the ins and outs of when and where I'm driving things. So I do actually drive it a decent amount, but on top of that, I mean, there just hasn't been as much stuff to drive it to this year. We're in the middle of a lockdown, a pandemic, less social events. I used to take the Performante and the 610-4 to social events quite a bit, and just drive it around for fun. It's just, work has been pretty busy lately, and on top of that, just not as much social stuff going on, so less things to drive the SVJ to, but I do try to save the kilometers, the mileage on that car for sort of special occasions and cruises, right? I really try to be a bit more judicious with my use of the car to make sure that I get the most value out of the kilometers I put on it, and I don't want to ride up the kilometers on a car like that. But that being said, I do think one day maybe I'll get like a pre-owned Performante or some other kind of V10 and drive that more often while also having a V12. That's kind of my little pie in the sky dream for the next few years. So we'll see if that actually ends up happening. Okay, so another question was, how much time do I spend worrying about the car? I don't really worry about it. It's one of those things, again, when you buy something like this, you have to make sure that you're comfortable with the decision. You do it in a way that doesn't stress you out. You have to be okay with the possibility that this is something that may not exist in your possession forever, right? If something happens to it, God forbid, something happens to it and it's gone, you have to be comfortable with, living the rest of your life without it, or being able to replace it. And so I think those are important factors that go into making a decision like this. I don't think I personally, at least, wouldn't get one of these cars if I didn't think I could replace it again from scratch if I had to. Or if I felt I was going to be kind of, going lease payment to, if I leased it. I didn't lease it. I bought mine in cash. But like if I were kind of leasing because I couldn't manage to buy it in cash. If I were just barely making lease payments, I don't think that would be a smart position to put myself in just to buy one of these cars. I would focus on my income generation, my career, and establish that such to is like to a point where that's more feasible, and then go ahead with purchasing something like that, and only then. So that's kind of my little short spiel. Sorry, it's a little almost like a tongue twister there, on that. And yeah, somebody was asking me how does it feel to drive a Lambo. I mean, it's great. I mean, honestly, it doesn't get old. It's always fun, and it's been like that pretty much since day one. And I honestly, when I rented one that day in Vegas, I was down there with my parents. I just rented one on a whim, summer of 2016. Never thought I'd buy one, and I never understood why people spend so much money on such cars. But as soon as I drove it, I was like, now I get it. Now it makes sense. I'm hooked, right? Like I was just, I that thrill that day, that experience, that is why people buy the car. So it's great. It's a lot of fun driving, and I thoroughly enjoy the experience, and I look forward to continuing that into the foreseeable future. Somebody asked, how does the ALA 2.0 feel? Honestly, like you have to be a race car driver, probably on a track, to be pushing the cars to the point where like you're gonna need the ALA 2.0 to do whatever it is you're trying to do and actually feel it. So I personally can't tell, but maybe that should be just because I'm a regular person driving what is a supercar, track beast, and maybe I just can't tell. Maybe I just don't push it hard enough. I mean, I've definitely been on some cruises with some spirited driving, so certainly the ALA was active and helping, but it's really hard for me to tell what exactly it's doing. But we know that it does a lot of stuff based on that Nürburgring record that it shattered. And then the delivery day experience. The delivery day experience was great. I mean, I this time was a little different because I decided to pick up the car at the dealership. Usually they will bring it out in a flatbed truck, and they kind of unveil it. They roll it down the ramp to your home. But this time I did it a little bit different. I did a video with Heather. You can find that on YouTube if you look up Heather Lamborghini Aventador SVJ, and then the color of my car is Arancio Fux, Arancio, and then Fux. You'll find that video, and it's a bit of an interview. We go over, kind of a little bit of my life story, how I got to where I am, why I do things the way I do them, how we spec the car, that kind of stuff. Some inspirational stuff, similar to what I post on my Instagram account, but you can find that video there. It's got over or almost 250,000 views now in less than a year. So I'm pretty humbled by that. I think it resonated with people. People liked it. But that was a really great part of the delivery day experience. So I went there, we did that interview. As the car was unveiled, they took the sort of the red car cover, the red drape off the car, and showed it to me, caught my reaction on video, and then we talked about the car, and then I drove it home from the dealership back to where I live, which was an interesting experience. It was I'd driven V12s before, but it's a little bit different driving your own V12 on the 407 while you're getting used to it, adjusting to it. So, but it was great. And then that night I had some friends come by, and we went for rides, and had some fun with the car that night for sure. So it was a great delivery day experience. I think both have been memorable, with the Performante doing that in where I live, and also with the SVJ doing it at the dealership with the interview and the full delivery video has been great too. And I think we'll definitely come up with something interesting for the SVJ Roadster once I chat with Heather about what she has planned and kind of what I want to do too. Okay, last three questions. So one was about merch. So yeah, when you buy the car, you get a certain amount of merch that you can buy. You can get t-shirts and whatever, hats and stuff like that you want. My merch, quote unquote merch for the SVJ, because by now I've collected lots of Lamborghini. I mean, actually, I'm wearing a Lamborghini hoodie right now. I've got hats, I've got t-shirts and stuff like that. I've got like zip ups and stuff. So I actually used the merch allocation to get one of those Power Wheels things. It's like it's actually literally it's a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ Power Wheels for my nephews. They're in Chicago. That's where my brother lives. So I got them that, which they really enjoyed, and I got to see on video. I was doing a video call during the reveal where my brother gave it to my eldest nephew, and I've got some cute videos of my eldest nephew driving around with the younger nephew and kind of trying to protect his head, hold his head so he doesn't get whiplash as my brother drives them around. It's remote controlled, so the merch is pretty cool. So I've enjoyed that. What else? What was the other question? Right. So one of the other questions was just about, do I think the price of the SVJ is worth it? Now the base price I think is pretty fair, but once you start adding options, it adds up. So it's really up to you. Like, do you want an ad personam paint? Do you want to do ad personam options on the inside? Do you need everything to be carbon fiber? So it's really up to you. What you want to do. I felt like for this car, I really wanted to do some special things. Like I wanted to make it unique. I kind of did that with the Rosso Bia on the Performante. I wanted to pick a unique paint on this one. So to me, it was worth it because I got like a special car out of it. But it would have been great also to spend a little bit less and get like a base model SVJ. But I mean, this is the top of the line Aventador, right? So if you want that, you're going to have to pay a little bit more than the base model Aventador that's out these days, right? So it really comes down to whether or not it's worth it to you, and I wouldn't have bought it if I didn't think it was worth it. Now, the price that the SVJ Roadster is approaching, that's probably where I'm going to cap out. I think at that point, probably will stop spending on exotics, maybe get a pre-owned V10 at some point in the future, but like that's it. I don't plan on collecting them. There's other plans that I have for my income, for my investments. So, I'm going to move on at that point and, maybe upgrade every few years, trade in, consign a car, and then get a new one. But other than that, I'm not going to be really adding extra cars to my fleet to any great extent. And then, man, I keep forgetting the questions. Hold on. Right, so the last question was, do they ever invite you to the factory if you buy a limited edition car? I don't know. I don't think it's something where, like, it's not really like a closed thing. I mean, for me, if I was actually planning to go to Italy to see, because the paint that I'm getting on the SVJ Roadster is a bit special, and I wanted to see it in person, so I was actually going to go to Italy in the spring, but literally, a week before that trip was going to happen, the lockdown happened, kind of travel basically ended, so I couldn't go. But it wasn't like something I had to be invited to. I didn't have to ask special permission as far as I know. I think it's just like if you want to come by, you just have to make an appointment, as far as I know. So I don't think it's some kind of top secret thing that you can't come to. I think anybody can actually go visit their museum. And then if they're not, I forget, there's some rule about the factory. I think it depends on if they're building something new that hasn't been announced yet, or I forget how that works, but there's something like that when they're changing over models. I forget, there's something about the factory itself, but I think you can go see that as well. And yeah, if you're getting a special car built, you can go visit ad personam and do the appointment there if you want. I did mine over video. Because obviously I couldn't travel there because of the lockdown, which was great. I did a 2-hour session I think I did a 2-hour session in August. And then, man, I think I've done 3 2-hour sessions in total or something like that. It's close to that. It's probably between 4 and 6 hours total of like spec sessions to like do all the options for the car. With one of their designers at Ad Personam, and Heather also, and some other people from Lamborghini Uptown. So got to do that, which was a really cool experience. Got to see all their software, got to really customize everything, get to see everything, on their renders before we actually submit the order for the car. And there's just a couple more things left to do, and then we're going to submit the order for that car probably within the next week or two. So it's going to be an exciting build, so I'm looking forward to you guys seeing that when it comes out. But I'm not really revealing any details of what that car is going to look like until probably until you guys see the delivery video itself. Anyways, that was it. Thanks for the great questions, and we'll do this again sometime else. Maybe we'll cover other topics. We can do Lamborghini again if you guys want, but there's lots of different topics we can do a Q&A on, which I'll post in my story so you guys can submit questions. All right, good night, guys.